Good morning and welcome, everybody. My name is Jason Mathias, and with me today is Tyler Ward. We work for the state of North Dakota. We are both information technology specialists with Edutech. Edutech is the educational services division within North Dakota Information Technology. NDIT is doing whatever possible to ensure that the entities we support are able to function in a wide variety of situations. For K-12 schools, we know our North Dakota administrators and educational personnel are carefully navigating how to proceed with classes, communication, and collaboration while addressing concerns around COVID-19. Edutech's mission remains to provide technology services and leadership to improve teaching and learning in NDP K-12. We are continuing that mission by providing this webinar series and are here to support our North Dakota K-12 community with support, training, and resources. In our webinar today, we're going to be looking at Microsoft Sway. This webinar is available for Edutech hours that you can turn into a graduate credit from NDSU. If you have not already, please register for this webinar using the link that's on the screen. Tyler has also added this registration link into the chat conversation on this webinar. So if you go to that web link, register for this, and you'll get 1 hour or one Edutech hour that you can turn eventually into an NDSU graduate credit once you've accumulated 15 Edutech hours. That will turn into 1 credit from NDSU. So if you're interested in accumulating those Edutech hours, please go here and register. If you're watching the recorded version of this, this registration link will actually close today at 4 o'clock. So if you're watching it online, you won't have the opportunity to register using that link. But if you're watching it now, please, if you haven't already, register for this so we can give you credit for attending today. Okay, today we're going to be talking about Sway. So Sway is been around for a while. It's been out since 2015, but it's one of the Microsoft apps that is not super well known, and I don't know if there's a lot of people that are using it inside of K-12. Most people don't really know what Sway is, so we'll kind of start with that. So Sway is a cloud-based presentation and storytelling app for Microsoft. It's cloud-based, so that means it's going to live entirely online. There is no desktop app for Sway. There's not even a mobile app for Sway. Basically, when you create a Sway, you are creating kind of what essentially turns into a website. So people can visit or see or view your Sway presentation just by opening a web browser and going to a web address. And the nice part about that is when you create that share link for Sway, that's always a live link and it's always going to take you to the most updated version of the Sway. So if you create your Sway presentation and generate that share link, if you can make edits to this Sway a week later, a month later, or a year later, that same web link is going to get you to all of that new updated content, right? So they become really easy to share. Instead of something like a PowerPoint where you can maybe create it and then you share that file, but if you make changes to the PowerPoint, then you have to reshare the file. Sway kind of takes all of that away from you. And one of the main ideas behind Sway is that it should be easy to use. So Sway kind of takes away that design element. You don't need to have a lot of design experience to get into Sway. Sway is going to do all that stuff for you. If you've worked a lot with PowerPoint, you know, you can dress up your slides. You can put hours and hours into a presentation changing how it looks. With Sway, you don't have to worry about any of that. Sway is just going to do it for you. And because Sway is stripping out all of that design extra stuff, it's easy to make a Sway presentation accessible, right? That's kind of an issue that we should be concerned about. If you're making your content and you're sharing it with your students, or you're making it available on a website, it should be ADA accessible. Sway has that built in, right? They take away all of the extra things that you would typically do to a PowerPoint that makes it not accessible. They're not even giving you those options, right? So the idea behind this, easy to use, quick to make, and it's going to be accessible for you when you share it. All right, so let's just get into Sway and let's get going. So I'm going to start by opening a web browser, logging into my Office 365 account. This is my main dashboard. Sway, as you can see, is going to live on your dashboard, right? It's kind of the green mountains with the little S in it. You should be able to see Sway here. If Sway does not show up on your main dashboard, you can click on the app launcher in the upper left-hand corner, also affectionately known as the waffle. If you click on that, you should find Sway on the first list that pops up. If it's not there, you can come down here and click on all apps and then scroll down until you find Sway. These are listed alphabetically for you, right? But those are just a few ways to get into Sway. Also, if you know you want to create a sway, you're starting from scratch, you can actually click on the plus sign right here, the Start New option on the dashboard of Office 365, and you do have the ability to create a sway page right from here. So you don't even need to go into sway to get started, right? I have sway already open, so I'm just going to click on another tab, and we're going to get in here and see what it looks like. So this is the main sway landing page when you access sway from your Office 365 account. Across the top, we have some options to create new documents. We can create a new blank sway. We can start from scratch. You can start from actually an existing document. You can take a Word document or a PDF, or maybe even a PowerPoint that you've already created and turn that into a sway. And I'll show you an example of that a little bit later on. Sway also has some templates here that you can choose from, and I'll show you where we can find some more template options here in just a minute. But also on my main dashboard, I have my most recent sways. One kind of drawback to sway is you can't organize sways into folders to categorize them. They all just kind of live here based off of when you created them. So you're going to see the most recent sways show up here. But one nice thing with sway is that it does give you some analytic data from your sway. So you can see how many people have viewed it, how long they have spent inside of the sway. Did they go through the entire thing, start to finish? Right, so you can keep some information or some data on your sways right here. But I want to see a little different version of this dashboard. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom of my list, and I'm going to click on all sways, right? And I've already got that tab open, so I'm just going to jump up here. But when you click on all sways, it actually takes you to the main sway landing page. Unfortunately, when you click on sway in Office 365, it doesn't immediately take you here, but you can still find this by clicking on that all sways button, or you can just simply open your web browser and you can go to sway.office.com, and it's going to take you straight to this landing page. So here we have a little bit different view of my sways. I get a little thumbnail of all of those sways instead of the list. I get the thumbnail. And then I also have the view option down here in the corner of the sway. You get the little eyeball thing with the number next to it. You can see how many people have viewed it. But the default layout is going to show you these are sways that have been edited. So these are either created by me or they have been shared with me and I've been getting edit access to them, and I've actually edited the sways, right? If I can click on see more, and it's going to show me more sways, right? I can keep expanding that menu until eventually I see all of the sways that I have created or edited. But also up here at the top, I can also see the sways that I viewed. So these might not be mine, but these are sways that I've looked at. Somebody else created them. I access these by clicking on a website that was a share link for a sway. And now I can come back and I can look at all of the sways that I viewed previously, right? So none of these are mine, but I've looked at all of these. And then I can also click on the analytics tab, and then I get some more analytic breakdown from my sways. I can see how many views, right? The average time that somebody spends looking at that particular sway, average completion, did they scroll all the way through it? And then I get a little deeper breakdown of that number over here. How many people just glanced at it? How many were quick reads? Deep reads meant they spent more time than the average inside of here. They read it start to finish. But I have some of that analytic data I can look at. And then I delete sways. They actually go to this recycle bin. Right? Microsoft is really trying to make sure that if you delete it, maybe you didn't really want to delete it or you click that button by accident. So it goes to this recycle bin right here. And actually, they do stay in the recycle bin for 30 days. So if you do delete a sway, you can go in and then you can bring this sway back. You can restore it. I just have to select the sway that I would like and click restore, and it's going to bring that sway back. Right? But I want to go back to my edited sways, and we're going to get started here in just a second. But again, I have the options of creating new. I can start from a topic, which I'll show you in a second, or I can start from a document. And then down at the bottom, I have my template options where I can start from a template. And then there are also some pre-built sways in here that share some information that you can just kind of look at, like shortcuts in Microsoft Word. If you want to know what keyboard shortcuts are, this lives inside of that sway dashboard. You can open it up, and it's a sway that shows you how you can use keyboard shortcuts in Word. Right? But if I want to start from a template, like let's say, for example, I want to create a newsletter. Right? Sway is great for creating newsletters. If I start from the template, it's going to give me the basic layout. Now I just have to add my content to it. So if I want to edit it, I'm going to click on Start Editing this Sway. Now it's going to prepare my template. And now I can get in here and I can start editing. It's going to give me some information, like here I should put in the date, the organization name. I should give a list of the stories or my contact information, and then story headlines. So this is pre-built. I would just have to go in here and I can change the content and then make this my own. Right? So that's an easy way to get started. I'll go through and I'll show you how to make changes to all of this stuff and how to add new cards in just a minute. But I want to show you just some easy ways that we can get started. Right? So that's starting from a template. Maybe I want to start from a document. So if I've already created a Word document that's an outline for Chapter 11 U.S. history, which is the Civil War. If I've created an outline for that, I can start from a document, bring that outline in, and it's going to produce it into a sway. Or maybe I even have that PowerPoint created. So I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to start from a document. I have a PowerPoint that I've already created. I can convert that to a sway. So I clicked on Start from a document. Now I find the file that I want to convert, click on it to select it, and click Open. Now it's going to take my PowerPoint presentation and it's going to turn it into a sway. This one went pretty quick because there's not a lot in here. It's only going to be a few cards and it's mostly text. If your PowerPoint has a lot of slides in it, a lot of images or graphics, it's going to take a little bit longer to break it down. If you went through your PowerPoint and did a whole bunch of extra design things to make your slides look nice, Sway might have some problems bringing that in. But now if I want to see what my PowerPoint is going to look like, since I've converted it to Sway, I can just click on the Design tab up here in the top left-hand corner, and that will kind of be my preview. Right? So this is what my PowerPoint is going to look like now that I've converted it to Sway. Right? So Sway here has decided what my background is going to be. It's decided my colors. It's decided the layout. It decided how I wanted to scroll through the document. I didn't have to do any of that. Right? Sway made those decisions for me. Right? So that's starting from a document. Right? I don't have to start from scratch. I can start from something I've already built. Or I can start from a topic right here in the middle. Right? So if I click on Start from a topic, it's going to ask me what topic do I want to cover. And since I'm going to be in the Civil War, I want to look at something about the Gettysburg Address. Right? So I just type in my topic and click Create Outline. Now Sway is actually going to do a Bing search for information about the Gettysburg Address. It's going to pull in that information, and it's going to build a Sway presentation for me. I didn't have to go find any of this content. Sway did that for me, or Bing did it actually. It's bringing in images for me. Right? Some of the images are taking a little bit longer to load, right? But it's going to pre-build this. Right? And that's all the time it took me. Now, I would probably go through here and I would double check and see what I want to keep out of the information that Sway brought in. Maybe I don't want all of this, or if I want to adjust some of the text cards, I can do that. But then the other nice thing is if I scroll all the way down to the bottom, it gives me my references. It tells me where that information came from in this way that I created. Right? But that's a nice, easy way to get started. I didn't have to do anything. I just typed in my topic, hit search, and then my Sway was built for me. And this is nice. I can maybe even just steal one or two cards out of this. I don't have to use the entire thing. I can steal some of these cards and bring them directly into my own Sway that I'm going to create. My other option for getting into Sway is I can just start from scratch. If I don't have anything pre-built, I want to start brand new. I can create the new document, and here I go. Right, so the first thing that you need to do is you need to add a title card. The title card is going to be what the name of your Sway presentation is. Right? If you don't give it a title card, or if you don't put anything in the text, this is just going to be saved as an untitled Sway. Right? But I'm going to call this the Civil War. Right? So this is going to be my presentation that I'm going to build. Right? From here, the next thing that I could do is I could add some new cards, and I'll go through all of this. I'm going to show you what some of these options are first, and then we'll kind of dig a little deeper into them. But I can add new cards by clicking on that green circle with the white plus sign in it. If I click on that, this is going to show me the different types of cards that I can bring into my Sway presentation. Right? The suggested tab is always the default, so these are just a kind of a quick access to some different things I can bring in. I can add another heading card. I can add a simple text card and add some text to my document. I can bring in an image. Stack is going to be able, or is going to allow me to bring in a group of images all at one time, and it's going to lay them into a stack format. I'll talk about that in a second. I can upload a document. So I already showed you how you can create a sway from an existing document. I can also do that inside of sway, and I'll show you that a little bit later on. Right, but those are some of my suggested options. Those always stay the same. I can find some more options by clicking on text. Now it gives me the option for a heading card or a text card. And I'll show you this again a little bit later on, but when you have more content in here, Sway actually kind of recognizes the layout of what you put together so far. So if you have a heading 1 card, which would be like my title card, if I want to create something below that, it might give me an option to create a heading 2 card. That's going to allow me to add things that are still going to be ADA accessible, right? So I can't add a heading 3 card after heading 1 without the heading 2. I can't skip that, right? That breaks accessibility. So Sway is going to prevent me from making some of those mistakes. I can also add media. Again, here I can add an image to my Sway. I can add a video clip. I can add an audio file if I just want to have some audio that's playing over the top of an image or a picture, or sharing some extra content that way. I can embed other types of presentations or videos, or I can even embed a Microsoft form directly into my Sway to make this interactive. And I'll show you some options with embed. And then I also have that upload option where I can bring something specific into this as well. And then my last choice is group. If I click on group, this is going to allow me to bring in a group of images or a group of videos, a group of text cards all at one time. And then it's going to organize them for me, right? So if I choose automatic, Sway is going to decide what is the best way to display. If I bring in 4 images, for example, automatic Sway will decide how those 4 images should be how they should be grouped together. If I choose grid, it's going to bring in my 4 images and it's going to group them in a 2x2 grid. If I bring in comparison only works if you're bringing in 2 things together, but it's going to have my 2 images side by side so I can compare, and I can actually slide over and cover one of them up. If I bring in a stack, it's going to stack images right on top of each other, right? So when I want to see them in my Sway presentation, it doesn't take up a lot of space. I would just click on them and it's going to take the top card and slide it to the back, and it's going to show me my next image. Or I can actually bring the cards in, bring these images in, and scroll through them like I'm watching a slideshow. Okay, but those are some options for how we can bring some information in. So I want to get some content in here, and I don't want to take the time today to build all of this from scratch. So I'm going to come back to my media option, and I'm going to upload something. I'm going to bring a PowerPoint into this just so I have some content that's in here that's ready to go. I'm going to select a different PowerPoint. I'm going to take my chapter 2 or chapter 11, section 2 PowerPoint. I'll click open, and now it's going to bring that PowerPoint. It's going to convert it to a Sway and bring it in here for me. So now I have content in here that's ready to go. Right? And I can see here, this is kind of dull. There isn't a lot going on here. So I want to add some images into this. And the first image that I want to add is I'm going to go back up to my title card. I gave it the title of the Civil War, but I also have this background part of my title card where I can bring in an image and use it as a background for my title slide. So if I click on background, this is going to give me the option to bring in an image. So here I clicked on the background right here. This right panel is going to open up. This would be the same panel that's going to open up if I would add an image or if I chose to add a video into my Sway. This same option is going to show up here on the right side of my screen, right? So it's going to give me the ability to search. I can search right from here. If I know I want to find something on the internet, I don't have a picture or an image ready to go that I want to bring in, I can search it. And this will actually use Bing to complete my search. It's going to take my title card, and I typed in Civil War. So it's actually going to bring in suggested search options based off of what I put into that title card. Right, so it knows I'm doing a presentation on the Civil War, so maybe I want to bring something on the Emancipation Proclamation or focus specifically on the Confederacy. It gave me those options right from here so I can do some quick searches. I also have the option, if I have an image that I know I want to use, I can click on my device and I can find that image that's saved somewhere on my computer and bring it into Sway, or I can go straight to my OneDrive. If I have that image inside of my OneDrive, I can access that directly, bring that image in and ready to go. In this case, I don't have anything that's ready to go for me, so I'm just going to do a search for it. I'm going to search for the U.S. Civil War I want to find some images that are going to go along with this and figure out what's going to be good for my background. And I'm going to choose this one. I like the United States map right here based on the Union and the Confederate States. So all I have to do is click and drag this in and drop it into that box. And now I've added my image in, right? I'm going to come up here now and I'm going to click on the design tab again. The design tab gives you basically a preview of what this is going to look like. So if I click on design, you'll notice that my background has changed. Sway decided it wanted this to look a little different. So it gave me all of this stuff already. I didn't have to do anything. It just chose this style for me, right? If I don't like it, I can change this a little bit later on, right? But for right now, I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm going to go back to my storyline so I can see my cards. If I click on the details above that United States map that I just brought in, I can now give that map a caption if I wanted to. If I wanted to say that, hey, this is a map of the U.S. This is a map of Union and Confederate States. All right, so this is going to be my caption. And down here in this style, it tells me captions are not displayed on background images. All right, so it's not going to be useful for me, but maybe I just want to have that there for my information. And then the other thing I can do with my image right now is I can choose focus points, and I can decide what part of this map is going to be the most important. Underneath the map, I have the checkbox that says the entire image is important. I want this whole thing to show up. I want it to be nice and big, so I'm going to make sure I check that box. But if I'm only focused on, the state of Florida, I can click on that part of the image, and then you can see down here my map repositioned on the page. So it's only going to show that portion of it. So I can dial in that focus a little bit more, but I want this whole thing to be important. So I'm going to click on that checkbox and put the check mark back. All right, but I can edit my image a little bit that way. Okay. So now let's add some more content to this. So I'm going to come down here, and after my first set of text cards, I want to add some other images to this. All right, so all I need to do to add more cards, I just click on the section that I want to add the cards to. Again, I get that green circle with the white plus sign in it. I click on it, and now I can have my same options of adding more cards to this. Right? And I want to add a stack of images. So I'm going to bring in 4 images. So I'm going to click on stack. Now I have to add my content to that. All I have to do is click on the plus sign in the middle of that card, and I can decide if I want to add text, images, or I can upload information directly into this. I'm going to choose images, and now it's going to give me those same images that I just found in my search. And I want to bring in 4 of them. So I'm just going to click and drag those images onto my new cards. And now it's going to create that group stack for me, right? It's stacked all 4 of those images together. So there'll be one image that's right on top of the next image. I can also change the size of those images. I can choose small, medium, or large, basically. I want these images to be a little bit bigger on the screen, so I'm going to click on the medium box. But I want to see what this actually looks like. So I'm going to go back to the design tab. Now these are my stacked images, right? So if I want to cycle through the images, I just simply click on the image and it's going to cycle through. Right? If I'm actually viewing this, I would have the ability to make this larger and blow up and fill the entire screen. Since I'm in the design, I don't have that option. It's just kind of giving me that preview. Right, but those are my images. So those look good. I'm going to go back to my storyline. Now I'm going to add some more text. All right, so I'm going to come down. I'm going to select this card. I want to add text underneath this. I can click on that plus sign again. I want to bring in a text card. Now you can see I have that heading 2 option. Right up here, I can see proclaiming emancipation. This is my heading 1 card. Now it's going to give me the option to create a heading 2 card underneath that. So the heading cards, that text is going to be a little bit bigger. It's going to be formatted different. It's going to separate this section of cards with what's previous to it or what's next to it. Right? But I can add that heading 2 card in, or I can just add a simple text card. Right? I'm going to pretend like I've added that text card and I've put some content in here. All text cards look essentially the same. And I do have some edit options that I can do inside of here. I can emphasize words on my text card, which is basically going to make a word or a phrase or a letter bold. Right? So if I want the Americans to be emphasized, I just highlight Americans and click emphasize, and now it's going to make that bold for me. I can give accent to it, which is basically going to turn text into italics. So I'm going to select some text. I'll click on accent, and then now I have that text that is in the italics form. I can also create a bulleted list, which I've already added here. I can create a numbered list. I can add a hyperlink, or I can turn some text that I've already added here into a hyperlink. Right, so you don't have a whole lot of design options. I can't change the size. Well, let me rephrase that. You can't change the font of text right here. You can change the size of text slightly. Over here on the right side of the card, I have that small icon box and that medium icon box. That's going to let me change the size of the text a little bit. I can't dial it in or narrow it down to a specific font size. It's just going to be big or small, right? And Sway is going to decide how that's going to look in my final presentation, right? So I don't have a lot of options on what I can change here with my text card. Again, it's trying to strip away all of those things that you would possibly do that could cause accessibility issues down the road. All right, so that's some text adding to this. I'm going to go back up here and I want to talk about these images a little bit. I kind of skipped over these after I added them, and I want to show you a couple of other options that go along with images. I can add captions to these images, again, just like I did with my background, right? So this is a group of soldiers. So now it's going to add that caption to it. Inside of the text part where I'm adding my caption, I have those same text formatting options. If I click on the details button on top of my picture, the one extra bit of detail that I can add is I can add an alternative text card. Now, these are images that I brought in straight from the search option inside of Sway that brought them from Bing. So it brought alt text in with these images already, but alt text is important if someone's going to view my presentation using a screen reader. The alt text is going to be a description of what's in the picture. So when the screen reader hits this image, it's going to read the alt text that goes along with it. Right? If you bring in your own image, it might try to bring in default alt text that's probably just going to be the name of the file that you brought in, the name of that picture file. Right? So it's always a good best practice to open that image and then change the alt text. I want to take away that Wikipedia option. Right? I just want to have it show that this is the 1st Pennsylvania Reserve Regiment. Right? I'm going to click on that image icon again and close that out. But now I can also go back and I can change the focus point of that image if I want to. I've already showed you that, so I'm not going to get into that again. One other thing that I want to mention is when I brought these pictures in, I brought them in using my search option right inside of Sway. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but you do have this option right here, which says Creative Commons only. If that's checked, it's only going to search for images that have the Creative Commons copyright license, which means that these are images that are free and available for you to use in an educational setting. You don't have to worry about violating copyright rules, right? It's going to find only images that are going to be good for you to use. Right? You'll notice my search also found videos that go along with my topic of the U.S. Civil War. So if I click on videos, now I can find some videos that I can bring into my presentation. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to add a video card. So I'm going to come down here and under these images, actually I'm going to, underneath this text, I want to add a video to this. So I'm going to click on that green circle again. I'm going to add a media card and I'm going to choose video. All right, so now all I have to do is drag that video right to there. So this is the video I want to use. I'm just going to drag it, drop it right there, and now it's added that video into my presentation. Again, I can add a caption to it. I can click on details, and I can give it alt text. Again, I should change this. I'm going to leave it for right now, but I should change this to be a description of what the video is going to be instead of the metadata that came along with that video. but I do have the option to change some of those. Actually, I'm gonna delete all that, and then I'm just gonna leave the Second American Civil War as my alt text. And again, you should give a description of what's happening inside the video. But now if I want to preview what this is going to look like, I just come back up to the top and click on design. Now I can see my video, right? It's not very big. I want to change that. I want to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go back to storyline. On that video card, again, I have those sizing boxes. I want to make this be that medium size. So it's going to be a little bit bigger on my screen. I'll go back to design. Now my image is a little bit bigger. If I want to preview the video, I can just click play. And it's going to play my video for me right inside of the sway. The other way that I can add in video content or images, back on my search box on the right, I do have this suggested box with a little drop-down menu. If I click on that, now I can maybe go to my OneDrive account, find the video that I've already saved. I can find something from Flickr. I can do a search from Bing Images, which is the default. That's where it's going to go. The default image search is also YouTube, but I can specifically search just YouTube. If I click on YouTube, now it's just going to search YouTube for videos, right? Most of those are going to be the same. That is the default for searching for videos. But I can search, if I know a specific YouTube video that I want to find, I can search for it here. And it might show up in this search. Or I can find images that are from my device as well. And it's going to open up, in this case, a Windows Explorer box where I can find that video file that I want to bring in and add it directly there. All right, so that's adding images, adding video to this. The other option of adding stuff that I use quite a bit is embedding things into a Sway presentation. So I want to show you a couple of examples of that. Right, so I'm going to add another video in this case. So I'm going to again click on that green circle. I want to add media. I want to add a video, but in this case, I don't want to search for it. I don't have it on my computer. Maybe I recorded some content, mini lecture on the Civil War that I've added to my Stream channel. I can embed a video from Stream directly into this, right? So I'm going to click on embed. Now it's going to give me an embed card. Right now it's going to tell me that I need to paste my embed code here. So I've already put something into Stream. I want to bring that directly into my Sway. So I'm going to come up here to the top. I have Stream open already. I've already clicked on the My Content tab. I've already selected videos. So these are the list of videos that I have available for me. And I want to bring in this practice video. Okay. So if I click on the three dots next to my practice video, I have the share option. If I click on the share option, the third tab at the top is embed. If I click on embed, now it's going to give me that embed code. All I have to do is copy this embed code. I'll copy it. Now I can go back to my Sway presentation, and inside of that embed card, I paste in my embed code. And now it's going to embed that Stream video directly into my presentation. Right? If I go back to the design tab, right now I can see my video from Stream is embedded directly into my Sway. The one thing that I want to caution about embedding something for Stream is you still need to make sure that the sharing options inside of Stream are set in a manner that you can share that with your students so they can watch it. If you have this as a private video that you're not sharing with anybody, when somebody else wants to view this, it's not going to allow them to do that because they don't have the right sharing permissions. But I can take my video content, this is my lecture, and drop it directly into my Sway presentation. I'm going to go back to storyline. Now I've got some content, text, images, videos. I've got my lecture in here. I want to give some assignments into this as well. So I can also embed a form. So I'm going to add another embed card. Again, I'm going to click on that green circle. I'm going to choose media. And again, I'm going to grab an embed card. Tells me I need to paste my embed code here. Now maybe I've created my chapter 11 test. I want to drop it straight into this. So everything is in one place. This way now becomes interactive. I have already created this in Microsoft Forms. So again, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to open my tab that's Microsoft Forms. I'm going to find the form that I would like to embed. This form right here called Civil War. I'll click on it to open it up. In the upper left-hand corner, again, that share button. If I click on share, I have the embed image right here, which is those kind of funny looking brackets. If I click on that embed icon, now it gives me my embed code. I can copy that code. I'll go back to Sway. I'll paste in my embed code. And now I've added a form directly into this. I want to make this form bigger so it stands out more. You don't miss it when you get to the page. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger using these 3 box icons on the right side of the embed card. Now I want to see what it's going to look like. So I'm going to go back to design. There it is. Now my form is directly into the Sway. So now my students saw the content, they watched a couple of videos, they heard my lecture, and now they can take the test right inside of Sway. Okay. The one other thing that I will show you with Embed is I have this presentation that I've created. I added 1 section's worth of PowerPoints to this. I can actually embed other Sways into this Sway. So I'm going to come back up here, and I want to embed another Sway. So I'm going to click on that green circle again, media, and I'm going to choose embed. I get that same option. Now, in this case, I'm actually going to embed this Sway into itself, right? But if I've got another Sway that I've already created that I want to bring into this, I would open it up, go to the share icon in the top right-hand corner, click on Get Embed Code. Now I'll copy that code. I can close this box. I'll paste in that embed code. And now I've actually embedded a Sway into a Sway. All right, so let me see what that looks like. All right, so here it is. I can click on View. And now I see a Sway inside of the Sway. Right, in this case, I embedded the same thing into itself. Right, but if I have, chapter 11, which was 5 sections long, I can create 5 different Sways, embed them into one. So each one is a standalone separate unit. They can view it directly from inside of this Sway. All right, so that's adding some content to the Sway. Again, you'll notice I didn't have a lot of formatting options. I just brought in text, images, videos. Sway decided how it wanted it to look. I viewed those looking at the design tab. One other thing I want to point out with the design tab is this doesn't just have to be a preview. I can actually edit content directly from the design tab. So if I see this section of text and I want to make some changes to it, I can just click on it and it's going to give me the edit option. Now it's going to open up that text box where I can make some changes to my text. Right? This was italics. I didn't want it to be that way. I'm going to get rid of that. I can remove that accent. And I can make that change directly from the design mode. The other option that I have inside of the design tab is over on the right side of the screen. I have the styles button. So if I click on styles, this is where I can change a little bit how I want the Sway to look. Right? So Sway came up with the format, the main outline for me of what this is going to look like. But I can make some changes to it. I can decide how I want this to scroll. This style, the default is it's going to scroll vertically. But I can also make this scroll horizontally. So it's going to scroll left to right. Or I could turn this into a slideshow. Right? So now we're going to slide one card at a time. And this is going to look a little more like a traditional PowerPoint. Right? Sway is always going to give you the default of what it thinks it should look the best with the style, but you can always change that. I do have some pre-built-in style options that I can choose from down here. If I didn't like this black background, the white text, it's too dark for me, I want to change it, I can find a style that I like better. All I have to do is click on it, and it's going to reformat my Sway using this pre-built style. All right, so I can just click on some different options. I can find out what I think is going to look the best, right? But those are things that are pre-built in. If you don't find anything that you quite like with the pre-built option, you do have customize, where you can make some custom changes to this. So if I click on customize, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of this menu first. You can change the font a little bit. There are some font choices that you can pick from. Each pre-built style has its own font that goes along with it, right? But if I want to kind of make this my own, I can pick the font that I want it to use. There aren't a lot of options, but there are a few. The text size is the last box. I can actually change the text size of my entire presentation. If I want to make everything a little bit bigger, I can do that. Again, I can't dial in specifically a font size, but I can go from what they call small to large and kind of make it a little bit better for me based off of how I'm going to display this, review it for my students. This animation emphasis box, subtle, moderate, or intense. The pre-built styles inside of Sway do include some animations, and specifically that's going to work for images. Like, how are the images going to appear on the slideshow? I made images that are going to be a stack, so when I scroll through them, one card swaps to the back. I can change the speed of that a little bit. There isn't a lot of stuff that you can actually control with the animation emphasis, right? But if you do find a style that has a lot of animations or ways that it brings in image cards, you can change the speed of it right here. Now I'm going to go back to my other two options inside of custom, right? If I want to pick the specific colors that I want to make my presentation, right? It gives me some color palettes that I can pick from, and I can choose these kind of predetermined slides and text colors that Sway is going to give me. I can also make my own by clicking on custom. For example, I want to make this blue. All I have to do is click on custom and then type in blue and then select the box. And now it's going to give me some blue choices of what I can make the background, what I can make text colors, right? And it's going to change. In this case, the headings will be blue, regular text is going to be white, but it's going to give me some options based off of that color that I wanted to use. Or I can base my background colors and text colors on an image that I've included in my Sway. So I want to use this United States map that I brought in as my background for the title card. If I click on it, it's going to pull out the colors that are included in this map, and it's going to give me the option to change my colors based off of what it found in that map, right? And I can actually scroll through all of my images, and I can base colors for my Sway based off of the images that I brought in. All right, so that's building your own style a little bit. If that's still not working out for you, you don't have a lot of things that you can change, or you don't want to spend time trying to figure out how to make it look the way that you want it to, you always have this remix button right here at the top, right? If I click on remix, Sway is actually just going to pick one of the pre-built styles. It's going to throw that out there for me, let me look at it. If I like it, I can keep it. If I don't like it, I can click remix again, and it's going to throw something else out. And I can keep clicking remix until I find something that I think is going to work the best for me, right? So let's say with this one, the swirls in the background, right? And again, it's going to decide how it wanted me to scroll. I had this originally set up that was going to go through slides. It wants for this style to have it be a vertical scroll, right? So it changed that automatically for me. It decided how it wanted to lay out my image cards, the extra stuff that I brought into Sway, my video, my pre-built Sway, my embedded stream video, my form. It decided how all of that was going to look for me. I didn't have to worry about doing any of that. Sway did it for me. Right, so those are some of the style options that you have. I'm going to come back to my storyline card right now. Some other things inside of Sway. In the upper right-hand corner, I have these three dots. If I click on these three dots, there are some more things I can do to this Sway. Right from here, I can create a new Sway, or I can duplicate this. I can make a direct copy of it. Or if I found a background or a format or a style that I like, I can actually save this as a template so I can use it later and I don't have to recreate it. I can print the Sway, which is basically just going to print the text of my Sway. It's not going to include any of the images. I can export this into a Word document or a PDF. That will bring some of the images in depending on how they are inside of the Sway. But it's going to export that into a new document. I do have some other settings that I can look at. So if I click on settings, I can change the language of my presentation. So I can pick from, English, which is the default, to I think there are just under 60 languages available inside of Sway that you can use. I'm going to go back to settings. I have two other boxes underneath the language that I can pick from. Show text direction buttons. So if I check that box inside of a text card, I now have these two text direction buttons. And that's going to make me be able to, or allow me to be able to make my text left justified or right justified. So if I want my text to be on the right side and scroll to the left, I can add new text. I'm going to click on the right justified box. Now my cursor goes to the right side of the screen. And if I would add text, it's now going to be right justified. Right? I'm going to get rid of all that. I don't want any of that to show up on my card. But if you turn those text direction buttons on, they're going to show up on every card throughout your presentation. It's not going to change text that you've already entered. You can highlight the text and then select the correct box to move it. Right? But that is an option to change how your text is going to look a little bit. You also have the option to use the right to left layout. If you click on that, it's not going to impact any previous cards. But if I would add a new text card, now my content is going to start from the right and it's going to scroll to the left. That's specifically pre-built in here if you're going to use a different language like Hebrew, for example, that's read right to left instead of left to right. But you can use this for a little bit of formatting option for yourself. I'm going to take those two boxes off. I'm going to get rid of this card. Right now, if you added a card that you didn't want, you always have that little garbage can delete button. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to make that card go away. Some other settings, I can change how viewers interact with my presentation. The default is viewers and co-authors can duplicate it, so anybody that's looking at it can make a copy of this. I can toggle that on or off. If I turn it off, I can decide if I want to allow viewers to be able to print this way or to export it. The default is that's always going to be on. Viewers can change the layout of the Sway, right? So I set this up to scroll vertically like it's a website. Viewers can actually change that view to make it more useful for how they're going to see the Sway. It doesn't change it on my end, it just changes it for them. And then I also to show the Sway informational footer, and I'll show you this at the very end. It always adds one card at the bottom that says that this was a presentation that was made with Sway. It gives you a link to click on if you want to go and create your own Sways. You can do that right from here. You can decide whether or not you want to show that information at the bottom. And then my last setting, I can autoplay this. If you have a PowerPoint presentation, you can time the slides and you can have it play through. So it's just a running slideshow. You can do the same thing in Sway. You can't really drill down and show how long each specific thing is going to set up, but you can set autoplay to on, and then you can control how long it's going to stay on each one of these cards as it goes through. It's kind of an all or nothing thing. You can't have one card stay on longer than something else. It's just one setting that you turn on, and that's going to impact the entire Sway. All right, but those are some settings that you can adjust inside of Sway. The next option, again, clicking on those three dots, is the accessibility checker. Again, I want to check my Sway for ADA accessibility. Most things inside of Sway are automatically accessible. It's not going to allow me to make some mistakes that are going to break that. The one thing it does want me to check, though, is my alt text. Right? So if you have images or videos in here, it's always going to ask you to double check your alt text. If you have hyperlinks in here, it's going to ask you to check hyperlinks. But that's really about it. It's not going to let you mess anything else up. So it tells me I have four images that are using default alt text. That means when I brought the image in, it brought alt text with it. Maybe that's right. Maybe it's not. I should check it. All I have to do to check it is click on that box. Now it's going to show me the image, and it's going to show me the alt text, right? And I can make changes to this. I can delete all this out, type in my new alt text. I can make adjustments to that. Again, alt text is once a screen reader hits this image, the screen reader is going to read the alt text. So if I am visually impaired and I can't see what this image is of, that alt text should give me the description of it. Right? So your alt text should always be a description of what's in the image. then I can scroll through my images using the right and left arrows at the bottom. I can make my changes. Once I've changed all my alt text, I click done. If I've made changes and it thinks that they're all good to go, those 4 improvements would now be listed under review. Right here it's telling me I have 6 that are good. Those 4 maybe still need some work, so I can make those improvements there. Right, so that's the accessibility checker inside of Sway. I don't have a lot of stuff I can change. Sway didn't allow me to make a lot of mistakes, so I don't have a lot of stuff I have to fix. I can also look at the accessibility view of Sway. The accessibility view basically strips out all of the formatting stuff that Sway added, and it's just going to leave the content. It's going to give it a plain background, plain text, and it's going to be easier to read. Right. I'm going to exit the accessibility view. It's going to take me back to my story cards. But again, I can always view that right from those 3 dots. And then there's also a help menu. If you click on help, you can find some information on how Sway is going to work. You can find information in the Sway community. So this would be like the frequently asked questions section. Give back what I want to change or a suggestion I have for how Sway can work better. I can give that information directly to Microsoft. I can report a violation if I've found maybe something that doesn't have a correct copyright. I can report that inside of here. Or if I'm looking at someone else's Sway and I know they violated the copyright, you can actually report that to Microsoft from inside of here. Right. But those are some setting options. Next, I'll show you the share options. So if you click on the share tab, again, I can share this Sway presentation, either specific groups or people. I can choose the specific individuals that I want to share this with. The default is those in your organization with the link, which means anybody with a K-12 Office 365 account is going to be able to view this Sway, or anyone with the link. I can share this externally as well. And then it gives me the share link. This is just a URL. It's a web link. So all I have to do is share this link. Somebody can put it into the web browser, and they're automatically going to be able to view this presentation. I can also give edit access. You notice when I click on the edit tab, this web link changes. Right? So the view tab and the edit, the view address and the edit address are 2 different addresses. Right? So I can specifically give this to, maybe I want Tyler to edit it. I can share this with Tyler, but I can give this view web link to everybody else, and they're just going to be able to view it while Tyler can edit it. I can also get the visual link for this. So if I click on that, it's going to give me a visual thumbnail of the Sway presentation. So if I want to email this information to somebody, I can copy this thumbnail, paste it into an email and send it, and they would just click on the image. It's going to take them directly to the Sway. Right? That's a little easier than getting into it without having to go through the URL or the web address. Right? And then I can also get the embed code. I can send this straight to LinkedIn, to Twitter, or to Facebook. I can share it directly that way as well. I also have more options down here. I can click on more options, and I can require a password to view this Sway. So if I want to share this, but I want to make it a little bit more controlled, I can require the password to view it. So now I would create the password, and then I can require the password for everybody to view it, or maybe I just want to have that password there for the people that have edit access to it. But you can password protect this way. And then once you've created the password, you can actually remove it in that same way. You would just click on share, more options, and then you would remove the password by clicking on that link. The text is going to change a little bit, but you can do that as well. And then the last option, viewers can see share buttons. I can toggle that on or off. So if I don't want my viewers to be able to see that share icon in the top right-hand corner, I can take that off when I make it available. All right, but those are some of the sharing options. The last thing that I want to show you here inside of Sway is this play button. Now, if I want to see what this is going to look like for real, play is the way to do it. I got kind of a preview inside of design. There are some things that might be a little bit different in the design mode than they are in the play mode. And if I click on play, now it's going to give me my overall Sway presentation. I can scroll through it. I can see the information. I did set this to autoplay, so I have access to my autoplay options right here as well. So now it's going to scroll through the Sway for me on its own, and then it's going to loop it once it gets to the end. It's going to cycle back through. Right? I can pause that or turn it off. But if you have autoplay settings turned on, you'll see those down here. Right? Then again, you can scroll through the entire Sway presentation. This is the car that I mentioned about the information for Sway. It tells me I made this with a Sway. It gives you a link if you want to get started using it. You can click on this and it's going to take you directly to sway.office.com. So if somebody's viewing this, they like it, this is a link that can get them directly into Sway so they can start getting going on this. But again, you can turn that off if you want to hide this, if you want to class that up a little bit so it looks a little bit different. All right, but that's Sway. I guess I don't see a lot of questions coming through on the chat, but if you have questions, please add them to the chat. Or feel free right now. You can turn on your microphone. You can ask the question on Sway. If there's something that you want to see, something you want me to walk through again, I can show you all of that stuff as well. Again, this registration link, if you want the EduTech hours to get credit for attending this training session, please go to that link and register. That link will be live until 4 o'clock today, so you have the rest of the day to do that.
Hey, Jason, it's Tyler.
Yep.
Thank you for explaining everything, especially on accessibility. We did have one question come in, and I know we touched on accessibility, but I think they're looking for what are the benefits and why should we check to see if Sways are accessible to our viewers?
All right, so if you're going to make content available publicly, like if you're going to put this onto a website, for example, it needs to meet ADA accessibility. So we went through a lot of that stuff with EduSites a few years ago. The Americans with Disability Act says if we're going to make this stuff available, we have to have the same opportunities for everybody to view and access the content, whether they have some visual impairments or things like that. So in this case, a lot of the accessibility stuff is specifically going to be built around a screen reader. How is a screen reader going to interact with the content that's in this way? How is it going to make that available to the person that's using that type of device to get access to the content? So Sway basically strips out all of the extra things that you could do to break accessibility. If you're using a PowerPoint for your presentation, for each slide, you need to set the reading order. How is the screen reader going to handle the content? What is the order that it's going to read that information to the person that's using it? How are they going to be able to use a keyboard to cycle and scroll through the information that's on the card? If you add things like animations into a PowerPoint, all of that stuff has to be set in the reading order to make it be accessible. Sway takes all of that extra stuff out, right? The only thing that we could potentially have issues with using screen readers for accessibility on this would be the alt text that goes along with the images. And again, alt text should just be a description of what that image is. So if you can't visually see the image, that text should be enough of a descriptor so you know what the content is. You're not going to miss anything just because you can't see it. And then hyperlinks should be accessible. The best practice for sharing hyperlinks is not to share the URL like we've done and then make this a link that you can click on. If this were a live hyperlink inside the PowerPoint, when the screen reader hits it, it's going to read http://www.edutech is going to read that whole thing, and then it's going to tell you that that's a hyperlink that hyperlinks to http:// it's going to read that whole thing again, right? So your hyperlink should just be some generic text, and then the hyperlink lives behind it, right? So Sway wants to make sure that you're doing those things correctly. Those are about the only two formatting things that you can do that are going to cause any accessibility issues with the Sway. If you have hyperlinks and alt text correct, Sway is completely ADA accessible. So I've even helped some people on an EduSite, for example. They wanted to have lesson plans on a teacher site. You can create your lesson plans in Sway. You can embed the Sway onto the EduSite. The Sway is accessible. That makes it accessible on the EduSite side. And then the nice part about that is when you change the content, you just change the Sway. You never have to go back in and physically change the website anymore, right? It makes it easier to be accessible. Other questions that we've had come in, Tyler? I see you've addressed some of them in the chat.
Yep. Other than that, I haven't seen anything else. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat, or please unmute your microphone and you can ask them directly to Jason.
Yeah, and we'll stay on for a few minutes after this too. If you have some questions, feel free to stay on, ask them. But again, thank you for attending this webinar. As always, we're here to assist you in being successful. Don't hesitate to reach out to our help desk at help@k12.nd.us. I've also created a Sway that includes screenshots and some simple short videos that walk through everything that we covered in this webinar. So if you go to that web address, bit.ly/ms-sway with a capital S, that is going to get you to a sway on sway. And everything that we covered is going to be inside of there. I see Tyler did add that link into the chat. So feel free to go and check that out. If you are working on a sway and you forgot how to do something that we mentioned here, you can check that out. Everything that we covered today is going to be included inside of that sway. And then also for that sway, if things change with sway itself and how it works, or if they add capabilities to it, we will update that sway. And again, it's nice. It's a live link. If there are changes to sway, we'll update that. A year from now, you can go back to that same web link, and you're going to get the most up-to-date content. All right. If there are no other questions, again, thank you for joining us. As I mentioned, I'll stay on for a few minutes if you do have other questions. But thanks for being here today. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a good weekend.